thank you very much for this marvelous meeting. We are here really in a beautiful atmosphere, an inspiring atmosphere, and I can say the team here of the Fondazione Palazzo Strozzi just read all our wishes from our lips, and it's really great, and it's the moment when we can be or become creative. And I think such an atmosphere is also the most important for our work, which we do when we are working with people with disabilities. Our museum, the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, is a very, very great institution. We are about 700 employees, and 100 of them are scientists. Our education department, where I'm working, and my colleague Julia Häusler, she will support me then during our workshop. Our education department offers a wide range of programs from 4-year-old children up to no end, and people with disabilities and without disabilities. Perhaps important to know for you, our collections are permanent collections, because whatever you see in the Fine Arts Museum was a former private collection of the emperor, of the Habsburg emperor. But we run also modern exhibitions, at least 2 or 3 exhibitions per year, in the moment the beautiful Wes Anderson exhibition. Yeah, and now to our topic, education programs for people with disabilities. The Kunsthistorisches Museum started already in 1950 to offer touch tours for blind and visually impaired people. Unfortunately, because of lack of resources and personal resources, not financial, but personal resources, these tours stopped. And in the year 2010, the general director asked me to start these tours again. The first idea was to do something for blind people, and we will see later then the tactile reliefs I developed. And so step by step, the wide range of disability became more and more important. 2014, I published a book in an inclusive manner for seeing and not seeing people for each age. I have it with me if you want to have a look there. It's only in German, but it's very interesting to have a look. And yeah, in 2016, we started with education programs for people with dementia. And in the autumn of the same year, yes, it was also 2016, I became a member of this project, which is called Arches, funded by Horizon 2020. The project is still running and will end in summer 2019. A very complicated title, Accessible Resources for Cultural Heritage Ecosystems. Nobody has an idea what we want. I think Arches is much more beautiful, and I will explain you at the end what it means, but I think you will easily and quickly understand. What is our aim? Yeah. We are 12 partners from all over Europe. You see here the logos, and I will also give you an explication to the most important ones later. We as partner want to create a more inclusive environment for people with disabilities, and together with them. We create everything together with them. Whatever we decide to do, writing texts or films or whatever, is done by the participants, and just I'm just inspiring them how to work, but they work. We want to develop 3 apps which enable the target groups to enjoy cultural sites as independently as possible. In our case, we work with museums. The apps are called Our Gallery. That means that we have 20 artworks of each museum, and we explain these artworks in different manners. We create tours with these 20 artworks called Museum Routes. An educational game will be developed, and a platform will be created where the users will be able to do their own drawings, to load up photos, and to share whatever they do with others. And the partners, you see the museum partners. We have six, so we are 6 museum partners: Victoria and Albert Museum, Wallace Collection, the Thyssen-Bornemisza Foundation, Museo Lázaro Galdiano in Madrid, secret place whenever you come to Madrid, a beautiful collection, and a very small museum, the Museo delle Belle Artes di Asturia. We have 3 technical partners. They are important for the development of the base of the apps and also for our tactile reliefs. The most important technical partner is VAVIS. You see the logo in the in the 3rd row in the middle. That means virtual reality visualization. It's one of Austrian leading research institution in the field of visual computing. They are experts in visualization as well as in visual and augmented reality. I came in contact with them during my first project 8 years ago. And then we have 3 educational partners. One of them are universities. The Open University in London is the biggest institution for distant learning, and the Bath University is specialized, or the professor who is partner of the Bath University is specialized on learning with people with disabilities. How do we work together? Here you get some impression. You have the inside view here of our creative atelier. We have place enough for 30 people. The first step, how can we or could we find this museum, or how did we find our partners with disability? Each museum prepared a video. You'll find everything on the homepage of the KHM. Produced a video. The video was subtitled. There was a sign. It was signed, and there was a short explication of what we are doing. And we did a press release, of course. And due to my long work with people with disabilities, I had very good contacts to different special associations. So I found about 20 people from 18 years up to about 60 years. And important was different kinds of disability. We have hearing impaired, cognitive impaired, and blind, visually impaired people. Only one hearing impaired, because whoever is working with groups with disabilities knows that it's quite difficult to come in contact with the hearing impaired groups. You see, we are here in the gallery. The right side is one of my colleagues supporting me. Next to her in the black dress is our signer. We are always 4 of us working with the group. I'm leading the workshop, and I have 3 colleagues supporting me, doing the tours and supporting also the work in the workshop. We meet us every 2 weeks in our atelier. The workshops last 3 hours. We do them in the afternoon, which is most important for our people because most of my participants are working in an organization, during the morning, and they have then free time in the afternoon. Other museums, as for example Wallace Collection or Victoria and Albert, start already in the late morning, have a dinner or lunch together, and continue in the afternoon. We explore the chosen artworks together. We go to the gallery. Well, it was quite a hard work in the beginning because 20 people, they didn't know each other, had no experience how to come along with each other. We made small groups of about 6 participants and choose 1 or 2 paintings only to come along with fine art. For most of them, it was the first time that they were in a museum. They had no idea what a museum is. Yeah, we explore the chosen artworks together. The signers are accompanying us, and so step by step, everybody got a feeling for each other's needs. We work with a lot of tactile objects. Here, I'm sorry. The third photo where the participants are sitting on the floor, you see we have some pigments, we have some oil where you can smell and lots of other things. And the tactile objects is most important for the visually impaired people. You see here on the some stones. It's a lapis lazuli, and they can touch the material, and we tell them the powder of lapis lazuli, and it's a very beautiful shining color. Or we have then replicas in our atelier here. 200% blind participants are touching a Gian Bologna figure of our Kunstkammer. Yeah, it's most important to give them emotional feeling and to wake up these different senses. Especially for our blind participants, we developed already a tactile map. That's my colleague Ilona. She's also a painter and does also sculptures, and she helps me to draw all these sketches for the maps. And this was a very long process. It lasted at least 4 or 6 workshops when the group of visually impaired people discussed with her their needs, what is important for us to come along in our museum. We prepared also these thermoprints, as you see here, a Gentileschi painting, and underneath you have the thermoprints, and so it's a very quick method to prepare tactile support for our visually impaired people. For the different printed versions of the artwork descriptions, we made experiment with color contrasts. You know, the app has lots of text, but we have to decide how should this text be written, because it's better black-white or white-black, or it's better yellow-blue, blue-yellow, green-yellow, whatever. And here you see the group working, and they are just trying out to put the colors next to the other. Each of the members found another solution. In the photo, you see Daniele Marano. He is 90% blind, and he is member of one of the best-known supporters for visually impaired people, the Hilfsgemeinschaft der Blinden in Österreich, and he gave us also a sensitization in the museum for our team. He's a very, very kind and helpful also member, but is a very good friend of mine in the meantime. Yeah, and some of them made beautiful drawings. As you see here, the trees with the sky, that's a female member, and she is a painter. She is working in the morning at a group which is called Balance, and they are concentrated on doing painting or other art objects. Now to the different apps. My gallery, it means 20 artworks, and these 20 artworks, well, this was the own decision I did, the choice of these 20 artworks. But now all the other decisions come from the participants, and we have to present these artworks for visually impaired people, hearing impaired, cognitive impaired people. That means when the user opens my gallery, a list with 20 artworks pops up. He can now choose between object descriptions for the different kinds of impaired people. Visually impaired people need a very long description and just completely other style than, for example, the easy-to-read text for cognitive impaired people. Each text is readable. The text for CE people, of course, is easy to read. And each readable text is also signed by a native signer. This was also important for me to have a native signer, and I found a native signer in Vienna who studied also fine art, so we have a very good connection to fine art. And everything is subtitled, and due to the voice-over function, each written text is also audible. Quite a lot to do. The texts were written together with the participants. They told us as museum staff what they wanted to know. They asked, for example, not only for artist's name and when he lived and title and so on, but they asked for the historic time, what was going on in this epoch. They asked for technical details. They wanted to see X-rays if we have some. It's really interesting to see how they explore this new world. And they were really tough and so engaged. And I can tell you, we worked sometimes 2 hours without any break. I didn't believe it before. And after these 2 hours, they said, well, we are exhausted, but we are so proud what we have done. Yeah? And it's just, yeah, the self-consciousness, which is so important. They win this, and they win a complete other. They get a complete other feeling when they move in our society together in our museum galleries. Now to the museum roots. This is just one first draft. It has now changed already, but it doesn't matter. What I wanted to show you, one title of one of these museum routes is "What are things made of?" And you see this tiny drawing. This is just the beginning. When you tip on "What are things made of?", this drawing pops up. It was done by a Trisomy 21 participant of about 30 years. He's a very, very good dancer. He dances in the beautiful company I Dance. Perhaps you have already heard, because that's very famous in Austria. And the tour takes place in our Kunstkammer, which is the splendid collection of applied art pieces from the 13th century up to the 18th century, where all the materials are shown: gold, silver, rock crystal, etc. And he calls himself art expert. He said, "I'm an art expert because when I'm here, I know of which material the things were done and how they were done. I want to tell others the same." And he has drawn an art expert with this traffic sign with the logo of Arches on his breast. And I found it really very, very good, for most of all also the title art expert. Another tour is entitled Great Emotions. There you'll find paintings by Tintoretto as the Susanna and the Elders, which is in a moment in Venice, or you'll find Van Dyck, Samson and Delilah, or Caravaggio, the crowning of Christ with thorns. And our painter, our female painter, presented me at the end of the workshop this beautiful drawing, and I asked her, "Well, can you explain me? Had you an idea? What should it express?" And she said, "Well, that's a monstrance because it's always God who gives us the possibility of feeling and coming in touch with other people." She believes really intensively in God. She was educated in a monastery, and it was not a good time for her. She started to tell me once, I was very astonished, and she's still believing in God, and everything has a very close connection to God. Yeah, and now we come to the tactile relief. Each museum will get a tactile relief. As I told you already, this was my first project. I developed 2010 two reliefs, one for the painting Raphael, the Madonna in the Meadow, and the other for a painting of Fouquet. The reliefs are in the gallery still today. They are on display, and everybody can come there and touch. And now the colleague and the member of the VAWIS who accompanied me during this first project developed, of course, this technique. And his aim was to develop a computer and a system which fits for everybody, also at home, not only in the gallery, but also at home. When you have a computer, you can install such a camera. You put the relief underneath, and you touch, and touching, you get an audible information. But when you can see, you can, of course, see on the sprout on the screen what you are doing. You get also signed information. And you can press some buttons and get further information, and you can change the color shades, whatever you need. Yeah, we'll have a look. This is the Kiss by Klimt. It was developed for the Belvedere Gallery, not for our museum, but it's one of the most recent reliefs he had done. And our group decided to transform Bruegel's Nest Robber, one of the very late compositions by Peter Bruegel the Elder. Perhaps you have heard, we have a splendid Bruegel exhibition in a moment in Vienna, the first which was ever shown. And here you see the choice of this painting was really well done. Honestly said, I guided the group a little bit to this choice because it's always a problem when you have a flower bouquet of Jan Bruegel the Younger. There are too much details on the painting, and it's not the technical part wouldn't be able to translate it in these tactile informations. And so we had to choose a composition with it only one or two figures and not too much details. And then the group decided between this one and a portrait by Albrecht Dürer. I'm very happy that they decided to realize the nest robber, and you see now the steps how such reliefs were done. You work, or the Andreas Reichinger is the technical partner. He needs highly resolved photography. Then he decides, together with the target group, which detail can be forgotten, which detail is really necessary, that we are able to touch everything and to understand the composition. You see here in different color shades which detail will be now transponded and formed out as relief. And then step by step the details are worked out and presented to the group. Unfortunately not in the printed version, but as PowerPoint presentation. And here I have to say I'm very, very happy that I have a big group of visually impaired people, and the majority has not completely lost vision. Yeah? And that's important because they can help and they tell us, well, that's important, and they discuss then with the completely blind people. At the end, we have to decide which detail we choose. There was, of course, of the compromise which was made, but nearly always in favor of those who are born blind, because that's important. They should have a good impression. Yeah, and now our experiences. I finished last week the 18th workshop. 10 further workshops will follow until the end of the project. When I started in February, my colleagues who supported me and I worked for the first time with a mixed disabled group. Yeah, this was a complete new experience for us. You know, each group has a different approach to the subject matter and needs different support. In the beginning, as I told you already, the groups were still separated and they were very uncertain how to communicate with the others. Most of them met for the first time blind people, had no idea what it means to be blind. After a few workshops, they came close in touch with each other. They asked the others why they need a special support. They asked which kind of support they need. They started to guide blind people through the museum to help them when we came to the staircase or whatever. And 2 weeks ago, all my partners were here and in the museum in Vienna, and we prepared a small workshop, and my disabled partners made tours to the object. Yeah, they said themselves, I want to support you, and I make the tour. They prepared the explication of the Cellini Saliera or whatever. Yeah? It was really, really fascinating and impressive. And we made together this, how do you call it in English? This is the, just a welcome information. And it's the word arches. You know, we built bridges between different people. I think we really did it. I just cut out the different letters, and each letter was decorated by a group of disabled people. We glued photos on it, and underneath you see arches in clay letters, and a clay bow, and these two things were done by 2 blind participants. And to give you a little bit an impression of our group, Eva Papst is just as old as I am. She lost her sight when she was very, very young, and was a long time working in our education institution for blind people. She is a very special woman, and I learned a lot due to her, because she accompanied me to this world, and she opened me the world for people without visual impairment. And she wrote a letter, because she was not present during this workshop where all our art partners were here. She wrote us a letter, and I'm allowed to read this letter now also here. I think that's the best characterization of our working atmosphere. It's very short. It must be a touching feeling to stand in front of a masterpiece and immerse oneself in all the details, to dive into a sea of colors and figures and scenarios that the artist brings to life. Blind people are excluded from this joy because of this loss of the most important of our senses. but are they really excluded? When art mediators lend their eyes and put their vision and knowledge into words, a picture gradually emerges in the mind that, of course, can never equal the original. Nevertheless, scenarios take shape, moods become receptive and alive, almost as if one could see the picture. In addition, tactile reliefs convey a fairly precise idea of the location of the objects and their relationship to each other. Finally, comprehensive verbal descriptions of the building and tactile graphics help to convey an impression of the location of the gallery rooms, make it easier to orientate oneself, and help to become familiar with the surrounding. In this way, even blind people can experience and enjoy the art of painting. However, this overall concept can only succeed if all those involved know which steps are necessary to make a museum for seeing eyes accessible and perceptible to blind people as well. Arches tries to build this bridge of understanding on the one hand in common workshops and on the other hand in individually adapted activities. The tours under expert guidance and together with people who are able to see, but sometimes have other limitations when enjoying art, are like seeing through the eyes of the others and do not offer only a very special quality studying a work of art. But these tours also convey a feeling of togetherness and thus broaden the horizon of one's own perception. I therefore consider it's a privilege to be able to contribute a small part to the success of this courageous project. Thank you very much.